Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars 1/6 scale The Mandalorian figure unboxing and review. Don't you just love it when we get to complete a team? I know I do, and today we're doing exactly that with the final member of the Night Owls from Mandalorian Season 2, Koska Reeves. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have pay in 4 and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, it's the typical Star Wars style. We have an image of Koska Reeves front and center, showcasing that she does come with a head sculpt, unlike poor Axe Woves, a metallic foil Star Wars logo, and a wraparound banner with another shot of Koska Reeves and the inside of either the ship that they robbed or Moff Gideon's light cruiser. They went to all of that effort securing the likeness rights for Sasha Banks from that whole wrestling side of things, and not for Axe Woves, who arguably would have been a lot simpler, and he had a much bigger role in Mandalorian Season 3. I reckon they're probably quite mad that they didn't give us a head sculpt the first time round, or they're happy because they know that you sure as shit will be buying a new one when the second version comes out with a head sculpt. That's just speculation at this point, we will have to wait and see. On the side of the box, another image of Koska Reeves without her helmet on, and her name plus a Disney logo down below. Around the back, nothing really, just her name as well as the usual Hot Toys warnings and legal info. On the inside, underneath the lid, I really like this image. It's Koska Reeves with her Westar blaster drawn, and in the background a little sneaky hint saying, "Please pick up Fennec Shand, you know you want her." And I reckon you do want her, that figure is absolutely incredible. I'm hoping that applies to Koska Reeves as well. First in-hand impressions for her. She does, it seems, reuse a lot of pieces from Bo-Katan, which means the body feels nice and sturdy, it's proportionate, the outfit hugs it well. That's the good stuff. She also will borrow some of the not-so-good stuff from Bo-Katan, and I'm pretty sure you all know exactly what I mean by that. We'll talk about it a little bit later. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of her accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything she comes with. Starting off with her display base first. This is a very versatile base. I'm glad that Hot Toys have come back to this base for Koska Reeves. It can be the walkway they were walking on when they were trying to jump onto the ship, or it could be the ship itself, or it could be the light cruiser, it could be whatever. This is just, like I said, very versatile. I dig the silver paint up on top. It looks white on camera. In person, it's super shiny and metallic. There's dirt and grime everywhere. The bottom is blue with more speckling of dirt and grime, so it ties the look together with the armor. Then for the nameplate, it says Koska Reeves. It's etched onto the surface. Up top, we do have a flight pole with a spring-loaded waist clamp. That's the only downside here. I wish that we not only got the flight pole, but also a crotch grabber. We will discuss these in a lot more detail on the actual figure, but you do get two different head sculpts, either the Koska Reeves unhelmeted head sculpt or the Mandalorian helmet. Now, it's worth noting that the helmet doesn't slide onto the head sculpt. It has its own neck connector. That's a good thing. Can you imagine, number one, if this was big enough to slide over the head sculpt, it would be quite large, and also, what would you do with the ponytail? And number two, you might just damage the paint applications on the head sculpt when you were sliding the helmet on. Going with separate neck connectors, always the right call. Someone in a previous video, I think it was a Boba Fett video, said that the flamethrower kind of looks like a Cheeto. Now that you've said that, yes, okay, I do see the Cheeto. Still, it doesn't ruin the flamethrower effect for me. I think it works well. The bottom clips onto the gauntlet. It's blue, or it would be most superheated, then translucent. And then for the main body of the flame, it flares out towards the edges, and up top it's flatter on the bottom. It's done in orange plastic. When the light passes through this thing in figure photography, it not only casts an orange light on the figure, but it also looks super convincing, like a proper flame. She also comes with two flame effects for her jetpack, and they're a little bit more prickly towards the bottom. This is the opposite effect. It's more orange at the top and more translucent down below. This grappling line we have seen just so many times. The line part is made of metal, the hook is made of plastic, it's painted well, nice and shiny and silver, and I particularly like that metallic blue at the bottom. When it comes to blasters, the Westar, We've seen this multiple times before with Bo-Katan, with the Death Watch figures, with Axe Woves, and now with Koska Reeves. This soft teal, almost greyish blue, that works for me. I don't know why, I just love that colour. The entire weapon is nice and shiny and metallic, and we've got some washes in the crevices that looks like some kind of oil stain. Now, this is new. Usually we don't get Imperial-style weapons with Mandos. This time, I'm okay with it. Say, for instance, Koska Reeves has run out of ammo with her blast pistol, she drops it, grabs this off a nearby stormtrooper, and continues to kick some ass. Unfortunately, the strap, as you can see, is starting to fray, and I'm not sure why. The sculpt work is good. There's some red on the side of the weapon. We also have some silver dry brushing at the front, where this would be knocked into things as the stormtroopers are clumsy as hell. And nothing moves here. The body does look similar to an E11. This, after all, being an E22, is the natural progression of that rifle. And lastly, a pretty decent array of hands. We get some trigger finger hands, one for either side, with some sculpted stitch work on the trigger fingers, some wrinkling on the surface, and some very nicely painted armor plates that are slightly metallic. We also get closed fists, one for either side, an open palm hand, splayed out fingers for the right side, and just two relaxed open palm hands that are already installed on the figure. What we are going to do now, though, is get Koska Reeves herself out here, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. At this point, you'd like to think that Hot Toys knows how to make a solid female Mandalorian. And for the most part, they do. They started off with the Armorer, who was great. She just had single bend elbows, which was a weird choice. Then they followed up with Bo-Katan, who was incredible. Still the single bend elbows, starting to notice a trend here. And now we have Koska Reeves. Her outfit perfectly tailored. Her proportions super real looking. Her armor, it pops more than Bo-Katan, being a little bit more saturated with the blue. And her head sculpt, it might even be better than Bo-Katan. It might just be one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen, period. Yet, still, they've gone back to the single bend elbows. They cannot stop using this body, and I have no idea why. It doesn't ruin the entire thing for me, but it might for you. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Koska Reeves' helmet. We will pop on the Sasha Banks head sculpt in just a second because I want to see it on the body too. I'm actually really excited to see that. This helmet is dope. It's nice and chiseled around the front with these sunken-in mandibles. It flares out towards the bottom, almost bell-bottom, you could say. It also has an adjustable rangefinder. If you want it in the front, you can totally do that. Then the paint applications with the darker blue in those mandibles, the silver chipping, the dirt and grime on the surface, and the sunken-in visor because it's a separate piece of sculpted plastic, not just painted. It all looks stunning. They've even added some airbrush shading around the edges just to make it even more filthy. Plus, on the underside of the helmet, there is some sculpt work, and I'm pretty sure that's the first time we've ever seen that from a Mandalorian helmet. Whoa, I knew this head sculpt was good. Now that I'm seeing it on the body, it's so much better than I was expecting. From every angle, that is Koska Reeves. It is Sasha Banks, no question. The expression is on point, the furrowed brow making her look fierce and determined. Then from a technical perspective, they've nailed that too. The skin texture sculpted and painted, that speckling on the surface to make natural complexion. The life in her eyes, she doesn't have that dead-eyed female Hot Toys head sculpt stare that they so often do. And it's just a very striking head sculpt with the braids across the front, the blend between the skin tone around the hairline and the hair up top. And you even have some little dangly pieces to add some depth. Around the back, you can see these ones poking out from the front ones. She also has a ponytail, so that means you will have to be a little bit more careful with articulation, because if you put a lot of stress on that ponytail, I reckon you might do some damage to where it's connected to the head sculpt. Just bear that in mind. She also has a skin tone neck, which I always like to see. Now, it's not a perfect match, it's a little bit lighter than the head sculpt, so maybe they weren't intending for you to see it all the time. If you do want to, you can pull the collar down and then you will see it all the time. From the front, you only really see the collar, so it's mostly for off-axis posing that you're going to see the skin tone neck. Around the back, she does have a mini silver jetpack on with some very vibrant blue accents and some yellow triangles indicating, hey, this is where the flame comes out, please be careful. She also has a little pop of gold on top of this dongle on the side there. Now they have gone a touch heavier than I was expecting with the washers. It's not a bad thing, it just makes it look even more weathered. Now if you want to, you can install the little blast effects, and they're just a straight peg, so nothing crazy, no magnets or anything like that. You slide them in, job done. Now back to the ponytail just for a second. I know we've already addressed it, but you can see that it isn't really all that rubbery. There is a little bit of flex to it, so the more that I'm seeing this, if you do have the blast effects on and you have her in a flight pose with the head sculpt angled back, just exercise caution, like I've already said. I know, I don't want to keep repeating myself. You can also spot a couple of the armor plates around the back. We'll focus more so on them around the front in just a second. Now, the jetpack is not removable. If you were hoping to remove this, I don't think you can without a little bit of modding. This back armor plate, however, is on Velcro, so that you can remove. So she is on the Bo-Katan body, which means her proportions look good and she fills out the suit where she needs to. And it does have the same drawbacks as Bo-Katan's body. You'll know what I mean when we get to the articulation segment. Another one is just natural posing, I guess. Her arms, they're at a permanent A stance. They're always sticking out at an angle. That's because she's got the shirt on, then she's got another sleeve over the top of that, and underneath the armpit, that's got to contend with the vest and the shirt and the sleeve piece. It's just so bulky, so it pushes her arms out and you can't get them naturally down by her sides. So her proportions do get thrown off just a little. You can try and mitigate this by bending the elbow, then rotating the arms in a little bit. I don't think that solves it as much as I would like it to. I want the arms just to sit down and be in a neutral pose. I didn't think that was too much to ask, but I guess it is. Not the end of the world, just something you might have to contend with depending on how you want to pose Koska Reeves. Now her vest does have some brown, maybe pleather sections, unconfirmed. There is also contrasting stitching, and around the back you've got some quilting for the elbow pads. I particularly like that detail. You have the night owl symbol on both shoulder pads, chipping, scratching, dirt and grime absolutely everywhere. This panel is particularly blue. It is very, very striking. It's super vivid, and I'm not sure why it's so much bluer than the rest of the armor. This color, I would have loved to have seen everywhere because it is seriously that striking. Attaching her flamethrower to the gauntlet was really easy, surprisingly. I thought that because you couldn't get the arms down and have them sit naturally, that bringing them up perpendicular would be a problem. It isn't. They can go up just fine. It turns out that it's just going down that's the issue. You do have a little nozzle that lines up with the flamethrower, and when you clip this on, it looks pretty darn realistic. It looks like the flame is coming out of the gauntlet. If you would like to remove the flame and instead go with the grappling line, you just slide this metal rod in, and now it looks like she's launching that out of her gauntlet. Oh, and on this side, for this gauntlet, it is an asymmetrical design. You have her whistling birds and the little compad piece around the front. There is silver chipping and there is dirt and grime. It's weathered just like all the rest of the armor is. Her belt, a separate piece so you can adjust it up and down, and it's made of pleather. So too are these pouches. They can't open, but they can also be adjusted. The buckles are nicely painted in bright shiny silver, not overly weathered unlike everything else, and the holster is made of pleather too. You can slide the pistol in and it's soft enough that it stretches and accommodates the pistol no problem. Her side armor plates are separate velcroed on pieces made of hard plastic, and they too are quite dirty and grimy. Something I mentioned with Bo-Katan that I don't know if I should mention here because people shut me down hard on this, is that her flight suit was very clean and the armor was completely filthy. That's the exact same thing with Koska Reeves. Her flight suit is pristine, whereas the armor, clearly not pristine. It has been through some action. Some people said, well, Justin, she would remove the armor plates and wash the flight suit. And okay, if that's your headcanon and explains why the flight suit is clean, totally fine. For me, I would have liked a little bit more soiling on the surface of the fabric pieces just to tie the look together. You do have more contrasting stitching, these brown pieces over the top, and you've got some separate floating knee pads, which do sit a little bit low. Not enough to throw off the proportions, just something that may need to be adjusted pose depending. Now her boot guards are also made of pleather, just like the belt pieces. They are quite filthy. You've got some speckling on the surface, some airbrush shading, and then the boots underneath, these are sculpted. They have managed to match the grain, the paint, and the color perfectly between the pleather pieces and the sculpted pieces. Then on the underside, not much in the way of sculpt work, just a little. You've got some tread on the back and some stitching around the edges, plus some lighter shading just to make it look a little bit older. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left Koska Reeves and on the right Bo-Katan Kryze. Now in real life, Katie Sackhoff is 5'6", whereas Sasha Banks is 5'5". So with Koska Reeves being a little bit taller than Bo-Katan, even though she's on the same body, it's just her neck connector is longer and the braids on top of her hair give her an added height boost. It's not 100% accurate, it should be the other way. Bo-Katan should be the taller of the two. Next to Axe Woves, or random generic blue Mandalorian dude, thanks Hot Toys for not giving us a head sculpt. Yeah, this works, I guess. I don't really have any actual height to go off because I'm just treating this as a generic Mandalorian in the collection. His armor is now not even accurate to Season 3, so I am hoping for a new version of Axe Woves in the future. Next to Boba Fett, this looks cool. They did have a bit of a tiff in the show. They had that flamethrower battle in the cantina, so you can do that in the display if you so choose. Boba Fett, just like Axe Woves, is taller than Koska Reeves. These two didn't necessarily spend a ton of time together in the show. Still, it's an option. Night Owls versus Mandalorian or working with Mandalorian. You can do a lot in the display. In the show, when Bo-Katan, Koska Reeves, and Axe Woves took off their helmets for the first time, that was an important moment. It showed Din Djarin that not all Mandalorians stick to the creed. In 1/6 scale, I hate to beat a dead horse. Seriously, I do. Just one more time. I have to say it once more. Not having an unhelmeted head sculpt with Axe Woves, the more I see these three together, the more it starts to bother me. And his blue doesn't match, but I'm pretty sure that's down to the costume design from the show. That's not a Hot Toys decision. Going over articulation, there is a time to be complacent and not improve things, and there is a time to see what didn't work so well the first time round when using a body, and make some adjustments for subsequent uses of said body. Starting off with the head sculpt, it's on a double ball peg and a fixed neck, looking forward to there, looking up to there, just enough for a flight pose. The neck is not articulated, it's sculpted out of solid plastic. Swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there on ratchets, the shoulder pads do move out of the way, they are velcroed on if you want to take them off, move the arms up, then put them back in position. They will go forward and back. There's also a butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Now this is what I was referring to. We only have a ratcheted single bend at the elbow. That's just not good enough. This arm, there is no reason for it not to be a double bend. It's completely hidden under the outfit. There's also no bicep swivel. All of the swivel comes from that elbow bend. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. There is a lot going on at the torso. This, I think, is forgivable. You've got the chest armor, you've got the belt, and you have this piece of armor as well. So crunching forward, pretty much not at all. Swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there. The pants are really tight, and there's some padding underneath. Going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. This is also weird. You only get a single bend at the knee. This totally could have been a double bend, just like the elbows. Then for the boots, underneath the boot guards, a double ball peg. Good for forward and back, swivel, and ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing, normally I'm not one to show you a headless figure on video. I am this time, I'm going to make an exception. This neck, it should have been a rubbery material. Making it out of solid sculpted plastic for articulation purposes, you only get a teeny amount forward and back, plus of course the articulation on the top ball joint. Still, this could have been so much better if this was a rubbery material. The neck could have hinged all the way forward and all the way back for flight poses. The second annoying thing is the Bo-Katan body. These arms, they're just not very good. They don't go down by her sides, and you only have single bend elbows. The third annoying thing is there is a fair amount of pleather. Her holster, her belt, the pouches, and the boot guards, that is all pleather. So I am worried that over time, if you do live in a humid or dry climate pleather doesn't like either, they will crack, peel, and in general degrade over time. The first cool thing is the Koska Reeves unhelmeted Sasha Banks head sculpt. It's undeniably good. I don't think anyone will have an issue with this head sculpt. From the expression, to how it was painted, to how it was sculpted, to how it sits on the body with the skin tone neck. It's all good, and I hope Hot Toys they continue this trajectory with future female head sculpts. The second cool thing is that we don't just get the Westar blaster pistol, we also get the E22, which is one of my favorite Star Wars blaster rifles of all time. It's something different, which I think was needed, because just giving all your Mandos the exact same weapon in the collection, it does get kind of boring. The third cool thing is how they painted the display base, doing the chrome nameplate and then the shiny silver finish up on top with dirt and grime on the surface, this airbrush shading, the speckling if you will. It just looks stunning. Wrapping up on Hot Toys Koska Reeves, based off her appearance in Star Wars The Mandalorian. Going into this, yeah, excited. It's always a good day when you get to add another Mandalorian to the display. Especially one that's part of a team, and this being the last member of that team, the Night Owls. I just can't wait to finish this video and then put all three of them, the trio, in the collection. So let's get on with it. This figure is sensational. She's not perfect. The one super annoying, frustrating little thing in the back of my mind, single bend elbows and knees. Why? Hot Toys, you knew that people with Bo-Katan, they switched out the bodies and they switched out the arms because you need to be able to bring that blaster pistol up by the side of the helmet. It's an iconic pose and you just can't do it with this body. Now that doesn't mean she's terrible, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get her. It's just something to be aware of. If you have a pose in mind that needs a double bend and that's your make or break for getting this, hopefully I've been able to help you make that decision one way or the other. If not, maybe switch the body and maybe that'll fix it for you. Everything else, no complaints from me. Even the display base is stunning. But the head sculpt, being as good as it is, it does a lot of heavy lifting, and it might just be worth the price of admission alone. I don't say that a lot, especially when it comes to armored characters. Usually, if a character has a helmet, 9 times out of 10, in fact, no, 9.9 times out of 10, they're always going to wear that helmet. With Koska Reeves, the artistry involved with that head sculpt, it's just too good not to use. Even in my display, this figure is being displayed with the head sculpt on, no question. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have Pay in 4 and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.